Hey, what's up, everybody? Nate Bailey here, Championship Leadership Podcast. And today I'm excited. We have Dan Lesniak. He is a best-selling author, billion-dollar real estate agent, and also, as you can see in the background, if you're watching this, the name of the coaching company, Hyper Fast Agent. So thank you, Dan. I appreciate you being here and taking time out of your busy day to be with us. Thank you.
Thanks, Nate. I appreciate the opportunity to be on your show and to get in front of your audience and your listeners and everyone who's watching, and really jump into my story and how it hopefully can help a few of your listeners.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's jump into it. The name is Championship Leadership. So I always like to ask right off the bat, just what do you think of, or what does championship leadership mean to you when you hear that?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing that people crave, or really two biggest things when it comes to championship leadership, is leaders that are authentic and leaders that are down in the trenches actually doing the work. So that's one of the things that I think is unique about the coaching company that I've built along with my wife Carrie and business partner, is that we are actually still in real estate. Like, we run a team that will sell nearly $400 million this year. And, in an age where it's just very easy to post a picture with you in a rented Lamborghini and to be a guru, and especially in real estate, you get a lot of coaches that, maybe they did sell a lot of homes in 1990 or 2000, 2005, but the market changes so quickly that selling 500 homes 20 years ago is a lot different than what it looks like today or a year ago even. So that's one of my key principles in championship leadership, is actually being a player coach, right? Like,
Yeah.
being a player coach and being authentic with people. Like, if you're not authentic, people can see right through it, and you just can't fake it.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that. It seems to be more and more of an issue. And I suppose, well, you tell me, what do you think? Why is that authenticity? Like, why is it such a big deal? I mean, I think I kind of go right to social media and how easy it is to, like, kind of what you just said, portray this image of something you're not, right?
Yeah, I think it has to do with social media and the ease of which it is to get attention, because it's a lot cheaper to take out a Facebook ad than traditional forms of marketing and advertising. And I'm not saying this to come at social media or
Sure.
digital marketing in a negative way. I think it's like money in a way, right? It amplifies who you are. Like, if you're a good person, money's just going to make you more of a good person. If you're a bad person, money will make you more of a bad person. The same is true, I believe, with social media. I think this problem of people not being real or of being inauthentic has been around for thousands of years, and it's just amplified on social media.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, do you see a lot of that? I'm in the coaching space as well, and it can be easy to get lost. It can also be easy to lose yourself a little bit, to want to almost fall into that a little bit, right? Of like, man, I really catch myself sometimes questioning myself, my motives. Like, do I really need this? Am I saying this to look good, or am I saying this because I really feel like it can make an impact on somebody? And it's just, so it's kind of in a way to self-monitor myself, so that I don't fall into that trap as well. So yeah, what are your experiences inside of the real estate world? Because there are a lot of coaches out there in that world as well, and it is hard to know who to lean on, who to trust, who to give your hard-earned dollars to, so that you can get the real help that you're looking for. I mean, that's a point that you would invest in a coach.
Yeah, well, I think if you're thinking about investing in a coach, you need to look at, like, what have they done? What are they doing right now? Right? Is that someone that I want to become? Like, if the coach or person you're thinking about following isn't who you would want to be, then I don't, I don't think you should be around that person, right? Like you
Yeah.
need to hang out. You need to be around people that are at the place that you want to go, or at least on the path there. And I think another thing you need to do is with leaders and influencers in general, and because coaches don't have to be paid, mentors don't have to be paid. Like you can digest the information that a lot of the coaches and leaders and influencers put out, like in things like this, like on podcasts or in books, right? Like there's tons of ways to do it without necessarily having, to pay them. There's nothing wrong with either, but I think one thing that to remember is like watch what they actually do, right? Not just what they say, because what a lot of times too, what they say is different than what they're doing. So you need to actually look at what successful people that you want to become, like what are they actually doing?
Yeah, absolutely. Talk a little bit. Tell us how you got your start in the real estate world. I know you mentioned that your wife is also your business partner and that you work together with her, and I'm sure there's some challenges there as well, but I'm sure there's a ton of benefits to being able to work with your wife as well. But yeah, maybe give us a little insight on how you started and where you came from to get here.
Yeah, well, real estate was not something that I thought I would do, or something I dreamed of becoming when I was growing up. I discovered it after a pretty challenging period in my life. So I fit the old school, old kind of paradigm that our parents were taught, and many people in our generation, of go to school, work hard so you can get into a better school and work hard so that you can get into a better school and work hard so you can get a good job and work hard so that you can get an even better one, or maybe go back to school. And that all worked for me, until it didn't. So I got into good schools, went to the Naval Academy, had a good career in the Navy, got a job as a defense contractor, went to business school, and I thought I would go work for a McKinsey, a BCG, a Bain Consulting, and lo and behold, it was 2010, 11. They were not hiring a ton of MBA graduates, and I did not get to accomplish my dream at the time, my goal of getting a $180,000 job where I traveled 4 days a week. That didn't come to fruition, thank God. But it was very crushing at the time, because I came from this paradigm that if you sort of work hard and check the boxes, you get to just march up this ladder. And I really think it's the school system kind of overselling its benefits. And at one point in time, I think that was, good for most people. It's still good for some people, but certainly not as many as it's portrayed. And it was very hard on me at the time. I interviewed probably 50 plus times, and a common theme was, well, we're not really hiring that many people, but the one thing that's holding us back is, while we think your technical ability is there, we don't think you have the ability to sell the consulting services, and that's an important part of it. So I asked them, one firm in particular, like, what can I do to come back to you guys in a year and get another shot at this? And they said, go get an experience that's completely unlike anything you've done. And at the time, I was in a job for a defense contractor, and I happened to be buying my second home in the area, I think third or fourth overall. And so I decided, okay, I'll get my real estate license and maybe try to help a few family and friends and that kind of thing. And then I got my license. And for a couple months, I really focused on marketing to the building I lived in, about 190 condo units. And because my focus was so narrow, which it kind of had to be with my job, because I couldn't really go out and market to hundreds of people, because it was so much of a focused marketing effort and concentration, I gained market share there rapidly. And in the first year, I would end up selling 12 million just in that building alone, and over 22 million total. So after a couple months of doing it part-time, I quickly looked up and realized that in the next like 90 days, I was going to close more, get more commission income than I was going to make for an entire year at my job.
Yeah.
So I decided to quit my job. I never looked back. I never, re-interviewed with any consulting companies, of course. And I think that year I ended up making 2.5 to 3 times what I would have at that company. And I didn't have to travel more than a mile from my house. So it all worked out really good. It's grown since then. A year after that breakout year I had, I met my wife, who was also in the business. We eventually merged the teams and business that we were growing. And this year we're going to close about 400 million this year. We've got 60 agents right now, a little over 60 agents on the team, about 100 people total when you include our staff and marketing team. And a couple of years ago, we started a coaching company, and that's starting to really grow and help agents all across the country. So it's just all exciting to really see.
Yeah, that's incredible. That's and you hear a lot of business owners, leaders of company trying to find a direction or a niche. Who are they really targeting? And you hear it all the time, right? The narrower that you niche, the wider and deeper that you can go, right? But it's so hard to do for so many people because they feel like they're limiting themselves. And then you essentially, like you said, you kind of had to because of what you had going on in your life, but it forced you to do that out of the gates. Do you feel like that was a big, being able to kind of get forced into that? Do you feel like that benefited you, or is that something that you think you wouldn't have had a problem with it doing had it not been for that circumstance?
Yeah, that's a good question. I don't know if I would have taken the exact same approach. I probably still would have focused on that condo building and really tried to gain market share there, regardless of my job situation. I just think it made it even more pressing to do that. I think I might have expanded quicker into other areas. So as good as my start was, I think it would have been better if I'd just gone all in and given up my income the first 2 or 3 months. But I think really having to focus on one building on less than 200 homes really made all the difference. And I later wrote about it in a book called the Local Hyperfast Real Estate Agent, and that came out about 2.5 years ago now. And that's really what led to the coaching company. We've got so much traction with that book. So many people were buying it. And so I really outlined the process in there. I call it segmentation, targeting, and positioning, where you really look at different market segments, pick a target, and then decide how you're going to position yourself to it. And I think a lot of people, not just in real estate, but in everything, really have trouble with the concept of just really focusing deeply on, and it could be the market, but it could just be like the next operational thing you need to do with your business, or just the next leverage point, right? Like how do you focus, put the blinders on, and really only look at the most important thing? And people struggle with it. Like they get distracted and want to chase, shiny objects down rabbit holes and all that. And like, I get it, but, and maybe I think what some people could do to help with that is maybe you allocate 10 or 20% of your time for rabbit holes, and really put the 80% on what you think is the next most important thing for whatever you're doing.
Yeah, absolutely. What's I know you mentioned being in the Naval Academy and in the Navy. I was an officer in the Army as well. Talk to me maybe a little bit about that experience and how that's helped you, as a leader in the Navy to then, come and create a significant team, 60 agents, I believe you said. And then also, of course, now as a coach, a mentor, a leader in your industry. And you definitely are as a producer as well. So, what benefits, characteristics, traits did you take from the experiences through the Naval Academy and inside of your Navy career to what you do today?
Yeah, I think starting out, the biggest thing that helped me was the discipline that the military brings you. And I think that really helps with what we just talked about, with staying focused on what matters, right? And getting up every day and spending an hour or two on whatever it is that, is your focus area. So I think the discipline that I learned in the military really helped me gain traction in the beginning. I think as I've grown a team, that discipline, that focus has translated into something that they see as an example. So I think it's carried through to them. The other thing the Navy's really, or being on a submarine in particular, because that's what I served on submarines. But this concept of like everybody on the team has got to pull their weight. Yeah. And it's on a submarine. There's only so many people, and you either all come back or you all don't. Like there's not really much of an in between. And I think that concept of and being able to hold team members accountable, and if they're not the right person, like getting them off the team, and I think that's helped us tremendously, especially in the last couple of years as we've added more people.
Yeah. So I love that. So identifying the people that shouldn't be on the team, getting them off the team quickly, and then I just go to, man, being on a submarine, there's probably times where we'd like to get someone off the team, but it's not necessarily an option. And so then that forces you probably to work, do some corrective action with them and see if that you can train them up or lead them differently, or maybe put them in a different position. Any of that, experiences that you have that carry over as well to what you do today.
Yeah. I mean, being very direct with people, giving them feedback as quickly as possible that they're not meeting the standards or expectations. And then, here's your probationary plan to get back on track. I think doing that early is important, and sometimes that can work. Like sometimes you do that and it can fix people, but more often than not, what I've found is it just doesn't work out in those cases. Yeah. And I think this is one of the hardest things when you actually start building a team, growing a business. It's very hard for leaders to get rid of people, because it's admitting a mistake, really. And no matter what you like, at one time you were like excited to write that person an offer letter, sign them, and I think people kind of overlook things and just assume that it'll change, and they just want to save everybody, right?
Right.
But not everyone can be saved. We're not all Jesus, and like it's just hard. It's a hard mistake for leaders to admit, and it can be scary, and we don't like turnover. And really, it's another example, I think, of putting short-term thinking ahead of long-term thinking, because you fear that, okay, removing this person who's not performing. I just realized my background started changing there. But removing this person that is not performing is going to cause me a lot of work in the short term. I got to hire new people. I got to have other staff pick up the slack, right? So maybe you put it off, even though long term it's going to be such a better return on investment. Do you want me to pause real quick, and I'll get my team to fix this? I think it'll be a little distracting.
Yeah, you bet. Yeah, I think, like you said, it can be as a leader, sometimes you might take it personally that, man, it's his failure. And then you hang on to people a little bit longer on the team, or a lot longer than you should. So yeah, I love that. That's such a important piece for, I think, people to hear, especially the entrepreneurs that are listening into this. Talk to me a little bit about vision, because I think championship leaders, man, they have incredible vision, and not just vision. Like, they don't stop there, right? They put it into action. They make decisions quickly. They execute, and they move on that vision to make it a reality. So, what's a vision for you with your real estate company, with the coaching program, the Hyperfast Agent? Like, what's a big vision for you? Maybe just, let's say, 5 years out from now, where do you want to be?
Yeah, well, we want to be the number one real estate team in the world. I think we'll get there in under 5 years. So next year our goal is 1,000 transactions. That would be about a 50% increase, I think, from what we're going to do this year. Maybe a 40% increase, actually. So that's a shorter term goal, is get to 1,000 deals. And then for us to be number one at our price point, we've probably got to get to 1,600. Just to give you an example, like 2 years ago, we were at 320. This year, we're going to do 700. So getting to 1,000, I think that puts us on the trajectory to get there in 2 to 3 years. So that's the big goal with our real estate team. And then with Hyperfast Agent, my next goal for that is to create a coaching mastermind group that is going to be one of the top coaching mastermind groups in the country for real estate agents. I want about 50 to 60 people in it max. Right now we've got about 10. We just started it. So I definitely think I can get there in the next 2 years. And really, I want to attract people that are interested in growing their real estate business, building teams, and building systems to make big incomes, like high 6-figure or 7-figure incomes, but really for it to be a business. So I want people in this group that are looking, how do I build a real estate business that actually that's a real business, right? That I can take a vacation and closings still happen, right? That I can have the time to go do other, adjacent businesses or ventures, right?
Yeah.
So I think a lot of real estate agents that have success break through, right? They get through the wall that a lot of agents don't. Most agents fail. So they get through that wall, but then they kind of get stuck in the 150 to 250 kind of range in income, which is fine. That's I'm not disparaging that like level of income or anything like that, but too many of them never really make hires and grow and build a team. And like, you don't have a business if it's just you. So you need team members in the real estate industry, especially in an industry where your clients are wanting to see homes, write offers on homes on nights and weekends. Like, you need to learn how to grow it beyond yourself. So that's what we want to do with Hyperfast Agent. And as one of the only coaches that are selling, and certainly one of the only ones selling at the level we are, like, we want to attract people that want what we have, and we want to help 40 to 60 people a year get on that path.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'd imagine that they end up feeding each other a little bit, right, too, as well, because now you have people that are looking to invest and willing to invest in themselves. Obviously, they have a clear plan of where they're going, and they tend to be a little bit higher producer, I would say, as well, right?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, the people, it's kind of funny. The people that buy the VIP tickets at events, the people that pay for coaching, the people that go to the networking and mastermind events, they're usually the people that need it the least, right?
Yeah, right.
Just the way it always works.
Yeah.
Like, they're always the most successful people that are doing that.
Yeah. One question I definitely want to ask here is, I love to talk about, maybe a moment in your life I like to call it a turning point or a critical moment, critical decision that you've had that, you know, a lot of times the easy path or the path for most would be that road most traveled, where had you taken the left instead of the right, you could be at a completely different place in life. From the outside looking in, at least most people would say it's a safe decision, or like, man, what are you doing? You're ruining your life, or whatever it is, or maybe it was just a moment again where you have to make that critical decision and you have to move and be decisive in that moment, and then it has you where you are today. Is there a moment that pops up in your mind where you have an example of that you could share with the listeners?
Yeah, I mean, there's a couple moments. One of them I briefly talked about earlier, and that was when I quit my job, my safe 6-figure contracting job, um, to jump into real estate. People thought I was crazy, especially a lot of my family members, because I went to the Naval Academy, got my MBA at Georgetown, so they all thought, oh, you're gonna like quit your contracting job. That it's a very, very safe job. I'll just put it that way, because it required a
Yeah, totally.
clearance and all that. So uh, people thought I was crazy for giving that up. And man, it was such like the day I actually went in and like told my boss I was leaving. It was like one of the most liberating moments, empowering moments in my life. So
I can imagine. Yeah.
um, yeah, that was definitely a turning point. Another one too I should touch on is at the end of my first year in real estate. Uh, I had another moment like that as well. The and it had to do with the company that I started with, and then leaving to go to another brokerage, and
What
really what
company are you with right now?
uh, we have our own now, but
Okay.
yeah, prior to that we were at Keller Williams. I started with Century 21, but now we're completely independent.
Okay.
But in my first year, I realized the opportunities with title companies and starting joint ventures with them. And so it was something I looked into with a past client that was, or a client that year that was also an attorney. And I knew he kind of wanted to get out of corporate law. And so we sat down and looked at what it would take to start a title company. And so we went out and did that. And eventually agents from the brokerage I was at, you know, raised their hands and decided to come on board and be a part of that. And as you can imagine, the company broker owner didn't like that because they had their own title company. But, they tried to throw a lot of kind of nonsense at me that it was illegal to do this and all sorts of things. And I'm like, all right, I guess, someone that doesn't really research or, uh, you know, think too much for themselves, that they might believe that, but like, I know that's not true, like, because other people have done this before and that are
Yeah.
like way bigger than me, and they're not going to just like blatantly do something that's illegal. And I think this is something that could benefit clients, benefit agents, and give us value back. And so that they gave me an ultimatum actually and said, well, you have to disband this or leave within 72 hours. And I pretty much got up out of that meeting and left right away. My decision was already made.
Yeah. Right.
And that really led to me. It led to me meeting my wife, Carrie, because she was at the new brokerage and she was the biggest agent there. So she was the first person I recruited for the title company. And I got much more than just the title business. I'll just put it
Yeah.
that way. But
Right.
um, it ended up, that experience really gave me the ability to go out and form other joint ventures and companies and do development deals. So just being able to kind of make quick decisions when opportunity comes up. I think that was just one example where it really worked out well, and I was able to build off that since then.
Yeah. Yeah. No, thank you. Thank you for sharing those. It's important because we all have those moments and those decisions. And um, You know, it's being able to recognize them. I think most importantly for what they are, like the weight of what it is, and then just being able to choose what's really deep inside of you. Like I think we all know what the right answer is for us. Sometimes we choose to go against that, right? But obviously, in those moments, I believe that you really were listening and going with what you knew was right for you. So, appreciate you sharing those. As we wrap up here, I'd love to just get one or two things from you that you could share with the audience that they could implement into their life to help them, move forward right away. Just maybe a few pieces of advice or actionable items that they could take.
Yeah, I mean, sticking on the theme of decisions, I think one actionable piece of advice would be to write down like no more than like three things at most, can be as few as one, and one might even be better than three, but like write down one thing that you've thought of doing or you're thinking about getting to or that you're researching, right? Just write down one thing and go and do it.
Yeah.
I think one of the most common feelings that comes with decisions, and it's more true the bigger the decision or the longer you're in the deciding kind of phase. The one thing that's true about it is no matter what decision you make, if it's right or wrong, the most like liberating thing is when you get out of that state of indecision. Like indecision is just paralyzing and crippling and debilitating. So actually deciding and taking action, even if it's the wrong decision and wrong action, is the most freeing thing, right? Because if it is the wrong action or something that is that you should have done differently, well, the only way you'll find out is if you try and do it, and nothing is permanent. Like you can, if it's the wrong decision, great, you found it out. Now you can go back and go the right way, but you'll never get there if you stay in that paralyzing state of indecision. So like one thing I think everyone can do right now is think of that one thing that you've been putting off or not making a decision or commitment to, and just commit, schedule it, and get it done.
Yeah, that's perfect because I think so many people do definitely they struggle with that. So yeah, that's great. Appreciate it. What are a few ways, number one, how could, if they wanted to join your team, how could they find that out? Or if they want to find more about your coaching business that you have, Hyperfast Agent, like how could they find that, and how can they follow you and get more of you, your book, and everything else that you have to offer?
Yeah, so on social media, my personal handle is the Dan Lesniak. So you can follow me there on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn, all that good stuff. And then on our coaching company is the Hyperfast Agent. So you can look us up at hyperfastagent.com. And there's a ton of information about what we offer there. If you want a copy of my book, particularly if you're a real estate agent, you can go to hyperfastfreebook.com, and we've got a great deal there where you just pay the shipping and we send you the book for free because we want to get it into as many hands as possible. So that's hyperfastfreebook.com.
Awesome, man. I appreciate it. And we'll get all that linked up in the show notes for sure. Just thank you so much for taking some time to join us here today. I appreciate it.
Thanks a lot. I enjoyed being on your show and would love to connect with your listeners. And if anyone follows up with me, I'll definitely answer your questions or comments and direct messages, all that good stuff.
Awesome, man. Thank you. Appreciate it.